Our trip to Switzerland actually began about a month ahead of our departure date, with Colin shortening a new pair of slacks for me, and both of us sorting out clothes to pack for the holiday. On the appointed day, May 6th, the VIP taxi arrived on time to take us to a hotel near the airport. Steve, our 400-pound VIP driver, clad in a tatty tracksuit, got lost about 2 miles from the hotel. But never fear when Abbott is near. Colin pulled out his trusty GPS and quickly got us back on track, so all was well.
Caution! The moving walkway is ending.
Next day, the shuttle bus took us to the airport, where we had some waiting to do. Once our flight was on the departure board, we relaxed, browsed our travel books, and talked a bit with an interesting woman who sat down next to us. She was an international embassy inspector, quite friendly and chatty, and conversation helped pass the time. We took off on time and arrived in Geneva within 1 minute of its scheduled landing. It was a funny sort of abbreviated night, with sunrise following shortly after sunset because of the 6-hour time difference. We boarded the train for our first destination, the small French-speaking town of Sion. It was relaxing to look out of the window at the lovely landscapes of Switzerland as we made our way south along Lake Geneva and then through the alpine valleys enclosed by snow-capped peaks. By the time we got to the apartment in Sion, we were quite glassy-eyed with fatigue and hungry as well. The apartment had a small bottle of welcoming wine, which we drank with the sandwiches we bought just down the street. The next morning, we rose early, still tired, but more or less functional, and excited to begin our exploration of the town and its medieval structures. We walked through the streets of Sion, heading toward the castle ruins that dominate the hillsides behind the town that lies in a lovely valley almost surrounded by snow-capped peaks. As we walked the cobblestone street leading up to the parking area for the castle ruins, we passed this restaurant, housed in a 13th century building, known for its vaulted cellar and popular for its fondues and raclettes. We chose to visit Castle Valère first. It's the older of the two structures, but in better condition. Castle Valère, with its massive Roman foundation walls, dates officially from the 13th century, but elements of even older parts survive, and it is thought that the whole structure may rest upon a Roman temple. A climb up rickety stairs leads to the interior church. We couldn't make the climb because of repair work, so we were disappointed not to see the back wall of the church, which holds the oldest playable organ in the world, dating from 1390, and played regularly every Saturday during July and August.
This might be worth the last 2 steps.
Okay. This was our first hiking day, and we were pretty chuffed that our fitness level allowed us to climb the rough stone steps to the top of the castle. Here we could take in the panoramic view of the town in its pretty valley setting. The way down took us past a tiny chapel built in 1310. It was locked, but gave up some of its secrets to the penetrating lens of Colin's camera, hooked through a narrow window beside the front door. On the hill opposite Castle Valère, we could see the huge ruins of Castle Tourbillon. But after hiking the route up to Valère, we decided to leave our visit to the other castle for another day. Not quite ready for the heavy slog up to Castle Tourbillon in Sion, we opted for a brief train ride through the vineyards to the nearby small town of Sierre. It was our intention to go from there to the village of St. Leonard to have a look at one of the largest underground lakes in Europe. We found out in Sierre, however, that there was no convenient way to St. Leonard by any means that would not leave us waiting for hours for a ride. Instead, we rode Switzerland's longest funicular to the top of Crans-Montana that overlooks the town, a quiet and unremarkable place with no real draw for tourists unless you're a biker or a skier wanting an exhilarating ride down the mountain. Grapes and wine drive the local economy, and in the fall, the people from the higher alpine areas who still follow a nomadic lifestyle come down from the mountains to Sierre for the harvest before drifting back to the upper hills and valleys for the winter.
For the ride back down to Sierre, I left Robin in one of the back seats while I went to sit right at the front. And it was quite an exhilarating ride down the steep hill back to the town.
Back in Sion, next morning we decided to make the trek to Castle Tourbillon. On the way, we found the Friday farmers market in full swing, despite the threat of rain from gathering clouds. Though it was well before noon, the cafe tables were full of people chatting and drinking the local fondant wine, while others strolled among the stalls inspecting the goodies on offer. A friendly hen and face painting entertained the children. We made our way through the crowd to the access route for the castle, planning to return to the market after our jaunt. It was quite a slog up to the castle over a crumbling pathway. Clouds were heavy as we made our way upward. We finally reached the outer ramparts, and I stopped to take pictures. For the moment, I was alone, listening to the wind whistling through the narrow windows of the outer walls of the castle. Meanwhile, Colin trudged on a bit further to the interior of the structure. Built in 1294, the huge building now seemed a sad and lonely relic of episcopal power, in contrast to the majestic bishop's residence it once was. Watch your step. By now the wind was quite cold and blustery, and I was glad to see Colin returning from the interior walls. Making our way down the tricky pathway, we returned to the market, where the crowd was still lively. Colin wanted cheese, and happily, fromage was in his limited French vocabulary. We found an empty table for a late lunch and relaxed after our hike with a cheesy raclette made while we watched and a lovely fondant wine. With a background of cheerful notes from a street musician, we made plans for our next adventure, a trip to Zermatt and the Matterhorn.